Smoking weed, chopping yayo. I'm reaching for my mask, and you know I'm full of fun. Smoking weed, chopping yayo. I'm reaching for my mask, and you know I'm full of fun. Smoking weed, chopping yayo. I'm reaching for my mask, and you know I'm full of fun. Smoking weed, chopping yayo. I'm reaching for my mask, and you know I'm full of fun. Smoking weed, chopping yayo. I'm reaching for my mask, and you know I'm full of fun. Smoking weed, chopping yayo. I'm reaching for my mask, and you know I'm full of fun. Smoking weed, chopping yayo.
Clear out the path, finna let loose my wrath. Half past Holocaust, full moon is out, so I'm flipping my blazing, y'all. Leaves crackling, house in the wind, grin up on my face. These thoughts off in my mind, time brings about another murder case. That might make them stains, split them brains, can't limping, I ain't tripping, I'm just psycho. If you drop your guard, I'll kill you, feel me. Slowly as I grip the endo, smoke my yoki, calling my name. Hollering out premeditated murder, but yo, who's to blame? Hidden wigs to me, it be another day at the office, fool. Man, look, you know you can't get out, so step up on me, dude. My click is thick, you tricks dick, but still you get no fucking thing. Trying to catch me slipping with no design, but I got my shine. All you buster boys on my nutsack better make me wait. Dead in the grave where you fall when I start to spray. I lay niggas up on they business, thinking they can test this beat. Running up, I give a weak ass nigga one chance, then I'm blasting.
Mask, and you know I'm full of fun. Smoking weed, chopping yayo. I'm reaching for my mask, and you know I'm full of fun.
As I was saying before, everything comes from the darkness, the primordial darkness. Black holes, for instance, light comes forth from that. You know, black people, people of color, well, everybody is composed of the initial primordial darkness. But black people, I believe, are the main and only ones that are composed of the source light. And they say that's the real light, but that's in our realm. With that being said, I believe also is coming. The commissions come from a much higher light. With that being said, you can use 195 hertz, for spiritual protection, to call on ancestors, get ancestor energy when you're doing all of that, by the way. That's why I fuck with the Asian way of seeing spirituality. Because there's, it's the truth. And I've been professing that even before all of this. It's the closest to what you call spiritual truth that you can get. It's the closest. In their culture, you don't see them, worshiping or being under gods, given, unless they work with somebody direct, given what they call it, libations to gods. I don't believe in doing that. I don't see any of these people as gods. It's like, for instance, Elegua. His real name was Elizondo Salazar, and I'm still trying to get the story on that. And from what I understand through Jehoshaphat, a guy named Martin, I don't want to say the rest just yet, he was able to get his power and become very, very powerful. And with that being said, the problem with that is, this guy originally was a slave who ended up in the hell realm and got woke in it by this Mark, heard a slave master, something. That's the original story. And with that being said, lost all of his power. Same thing with Yemeya, Oshun, all this mysticism around. Those are usually people, it's like famous celebrities who've gone down in history, who people start to gather around over time, who may have died, some of that. I heard Yemeya drowned, that's why she's associated with the ocean. Oshun, same thing with her. They start, because they have a primitive mystical understanding way of seeing things, they start to circumvent these people and come to them looking for blessings, and all of a sudden, usually at the expense, that's why I don't believe in worshiping gods, usually at the expense of that person's energy. Like with the Ars Goetia, this shit gets taken away. At the expense of their at the expense of their energy, they shit body parts, astral body parts, and all that shit gets taken away. That's why I come up with frequencies to get shit back. And them people are stuck in hell realms without any ability to be able to get their shit back. You're basically condemning an innocent person to hell for your benefit. They start praying to them, giving them libations every now and then to feed, instead of trying to play 125 hertz to rescue that person, or 1185 hertz that transmute hellish realms, hell realms. 156 hertz frees people from spirit jars. And basically keep this person stuck in a sort of stasis, where they can't go anywhere and where they can't get the help that they need. It's like what I heard with Goddess Kali. I looked at her and I thought, there was a family called the Blue Fugates. in Battle Creek, Tennessee, that had blue skin. The reason why I'm saying that is because when you look at the Indian quote unquote gods, those are aliens. They got blue skin. And here you have literal physical people. They were white people. And when you look at the Indians, those are the original Aryans. You know, it ain't white people, that's Nordics. And then I'm trying to think of the categorization for West Europeans. They call them Alpine or Bavarian. Alpine look, physiognomy. Talk about in racial categorizations. You know, whites, I believe, everybody come from us, but they really, come from them people. Because you got the Aryans and then you got the Dravidian Indians who are very dark complexioned people. With that being said, the blue fugates, those people naturally have blue skin. And they bleed brown, colored, blood. Now, when I looked at Goddess Kali on the face of it, I thought she was one of these aliens. Turned out she was a regular old Indian. I don't know how true this is. And then on top of that, she got all them appendages, that makes you wonder. She was a young lady that got condemned into a hell realm. Like I said, 125 hertz, 1185 hertz could be used to rescue people from them. That's why I believe in looking at the alien way of seeing things, because within this demiurge, God, industrial complex system, which the Cometians got jurisdiction over, but they don't control shit. But they weren't the ones that created the Illuminati. I believe it was God that did that on the demiurge. With that being said, them people, go. She fucking with me and tormenting me, storing my soul consciousness as I talk. And it's fucking with me as I'm talking about all of this. That Maria Tariff and the Cassandra Nunez pulling apart my shit. Cassandra Nunez, the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, tearing the bear. Cassandra Nunez tearing the bear. That same word they bullshit, and that's like on the lowest end of the totem pole. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. With that being said, as I said before, the thing with our God industrial complex is designed to keep us from transcending and ascending spiritually, advancing to a Kardashev level society. Much like what the diary of Paul Dynock breaks down, and it was a very interesting diary that I read years ago, and it's unfortunate what might happen to us as well as the Asian race, who are the most advanced, us spiritually, them technologically and spiritually on the low. And they just don't know. I don't want to see that future occurring, and I heard in the spirit plane, the Illuminati actually averted that. saw how the Illuminati fucked up Hussein in the spirit plane, you know. That's why you gotta go to the Egyptian gods, you know, to deal with them. She's getting her power in that timeline, that August 22nd, 2022 timeline from, I'm handling this shit myself. I don't even want to talk about it. And every time I talk about important shit like this, spread knowledge to people, 322 hertz, which is a favorite number by the Illuminati, can do such. She starts fucking with me. That's why that wetback bitch needs to be taken out and that whatchamacallit. But anyways, as I was explaining before, the God industrial complex, and another thing too is she's using the power of the demiurge. That's why you have to go to the Egyptian gods. I believe Pazuzu or Hekate's another one in that timeline. A couple of them, they put Zendaya in charge. That's why you don't give your power to anybody. You know, you got the source, you got God, but you come from something higher. Don't give your power. The reason why I'm saying that about that God industrial complex, and I talked about it on my blog. Isn't it funny how that turned off? It's designed to keep you from ascending and transcending. And to keep you from elevating to a higher level. It's designed to keep you from ascending. You know, you got the archons. I think they give us, you got the gnosis that gives you knowledge. And the archons, I think, are the parasites, the random parasites like in a video game that feeds on you and keeps you from ascending. And that's the system that we live in. And, you know, when I've seen the gods and all of that in the spirit plane, you know, they remind me of computer, you know, even when I've seen myself in the spirit plane, you know, computer generated programs, computer characters, video game characters, entity attachments. You know, like you make a whole lot of characters, you know, like in video games, you know, you got different characters, like, what they call it, Double Dragon was one of my favorite video games back in the day. And you got motherfuckers that just keep on spawning and spawning. And that's what they remind me of. It's lower technology. Like I learned this girl, one of the ones that died during the Rodney King thing, Latasha Harlins. Which reminds me of the name of the person that's going to be in charge of concentration. It's Latasha Collins. That's the person that's going to be in charge of concentration camps. Anyways, with that being said, I'm hearing all this weird ass shit. She lives in a different reality. I heard she don't even want to have anything to do with her relatives and ancestors in this one. Where they have a technologically evolved society that's almost on the precipice of transcending whatchamacallit, cars and all of that. She lives in an advanced society where they have a lot of things, where it's very technologically, advanced. And that's because they've successfully combined spirit technology with the physical, with the corporal. And that's the type of society I want to see. You know, it's like with what's going on with Trump. There's something ain't real here. Something ain't right. Back in 2016, and I think he lost that election in 2022, he was going to try to, get us back on the gold standard. That's why he resonated with a lot of people who are on a deeper fucking level of thinking. We saw past the immigration and all of that. He actually wanted open borders, but we got to be on that Kardashev level frequency. We got to be on that same frequency where we all understand each other. It's not a matter of, you break down borders. You got too many differences, disparities between people, to do that. I hate to say it, but in Sweden, because of culture, they're experiencing that with the Muslims. And Allah, by the way, is a very smart, he's a separate demiurge. You know, I actually did an experiment with him in the spirit plane where, very briefly, you know, he put us on a gold standard. It was something to do with the Illuminati. And it felt very egalitarian and heavenly and very, very nice. With that being said, they're experiencing that with the closed-mindedness of them people. I'm going to tell you where that comes from. Before they were placed under, I almost want to say his name. Because of what I'm dealing with the Illuminati, unless something is done. They were under God himself. Then you had the so-called Zoroastrian gods who were actually roach attachments of very, very, I want to say, not angelic, but great, very high frequency, high vibrational beings from another reality. I don't want to say Nibiru, I don't want to say the Anunnaki, just like with the Cometians. That's why, you know, they were liberal back then. They were more progressive and liberal here. Look like I'm about to fucking die. Anyways, with that being said, a lot of demiurge comes along. And the issue with him in the spirit plane is he has a very dark energy about him. What he does is, you know how they talk about the shaitan. I believe just like, you know, we have inner Ars Goetia, we also got inner shaitan. Those are fallen angels, so-called demons. And it's funny, in this reality, they call it effect. And I know that that was more of a plebeian word for something else in my timeline, in my reality. Where I come from, they called it Kaf, Q-A-F, where the shaitan come from. the jinn. That's why they're made of smokeless fire. They're just angels. They don't exist in our reality. They're not in our vibration, so they appear as smoke to us. With that being said, the reason why, and I talked about this on my blog, after something I saw on the spirit plane, he got the women to wear burqas. You know, there's a lot of spiritual energy with us. It's because in the spirit plane, I saw entities that wear burqas, as well as necromancer entities that wear the so-called KKK hats. They have them at the Vatican for a spiritual reason. And they do the Tai Chi. The reason why they do that is because it's to protect us from the etheric astral parasites that exist and subsist off of us from coming into the spirit plane. Blatantly, it's kind of like what I'm experiencing. I'm experiencing that shit right now, especially with that Maria paraffin. Energy vampires, 452 hertz could be used to get your shit back from energy vampires, along with 451 hertz and 960 hertz is a very powerful frequency to be able to get rid of energy vampires. 962 hertz gets your shit back from them. I know that from experience. With that being said, he will let the shaitan or any of them parasites come and fuck with you if you don't feed him enough energy by praying to him. That's why pray looks a lot like the word prey, meaning predation by animals and other beings. So that's why there's so many issues with it. And with women, you know, there's a lot of spiritual power. You know, I saw in the spirit plane recently. I've been on it with blood, menstrual blood. It's where your ancestral DNA, it's where everything resides. A lot of spirits feed on that for a reason in the spirit plane. He makes women wear that because through their menstrual powers, and this is why it's condemned all over the world, they can see past the charade, his bullshit, and shut them down. Those women are, in a way, connected to the astral burqa-wearing entities. You know, the divine feminine by way of our gender. You know, the Yoda Baal, for instance, the one who is in charge of the God industrial complex, the demiurge, was begot by Sophia, a woman. That's who created Mother Gaia, Earth. Everything comes from the woman. From the darkness of the womb comes life, light. So with that being said, these motherfuckers saw Sophia. Okay. So with that being said, so I'm gonna. With that being said, you know, you got these your boy, in my timeline, Donald Trump, his ultimate, I'm going to say something too, even the deep thinking motherfuckers, they think on the reptilian level in this timeline. They're not nuanced like where I come from. Even the most closed-minded motherfuckers were nuanced, and that's because of empathy. They ain't got that here. It's like they can't see past their own nose. You know, if you ain't fitting into a box, a position that they think you should fit in, they can't comprehend you. It's a very weird timeline I'm in. I know it's not my timeline. I know that for facts. With that being said, the problem in my timeline, Donald Trump's agenda was to get us all on the same frequency, break down the borders, but do it in a safe motherfucking manner where everybody on the same frequency and vibration. You know, it wasn't okay, you got to be on that frequency and vibration to be able to not have borders. It's like breaking down borders between two warring fucking factions. You can't do that. You got to have the motherfuckers get along and be on the same playing field for that to happen. You know, with that being said, his aspiration was to bring about a future where everybody on the same page. Like with Paul Dynard, but without the white supremacy shit. Where it's, there's a lot that I want to talk about, but I heard some weird shit in the spirit playing about them. What's to come with them. And them dominate. Where it's going to be whites and South Americans and Indians, but not that many. They wiped out the people of color mainly and brought the road dogs. But you can avert that in the future. You know, 6,000 hertz frequency could be used to defeat them. 1488 hertz the same. Anyways, with that being said, the thing with Paul, okay, he wanted to go against what the Illuminati had planned, which is to orchestrate a future reality. They were going to do it through the Great Reset in my timeline. I don't know if people heard about that here. Where they were going to build myself. Where this is why they killed Eminem in 2016. That you could see that's not him.